June 1st, 2011, Bill Kelly with the S.P.R.C. Second half of an interview. I'll tag it later.
Welcome back. Bill Kelly Show, 900 CHML. You're watching on Cable 14. Sarah Mayo and Deirdre Piker with us from the Social Planning and Research Council. The tone of the report here that was done in collaboration, by the way, with the United Way of Hamilton Burlington. If I'm on the other side of the bay, I call Burlington Hamilton, but I mean, that's all semantics, I guess. But anyway, I know Len Leftis was working with you guys on this too to try to get the information here. But the surge here seems to be to make sure that all residents have the opportunity, regardless of income, which is obviously the goal here. And that includes some who are disadvantaged here. And the biggest challenge among many that I see here is moving around some of these stigmas that are here, because that seems to be the biggest stumbling block here to try to move forward. I get the sense this is an awful lot of these affected people want to do better. We all want them to do better, but there's an element here, and I know Chris Mackey talked about it when you had your meeting with him this morning, the Associate Medical Officer of Health, is you've got to get the people that have these perceptions of the way things are and either get them out of the way or try to change that. That's a daunting task.
It is. But one of the strategies that we talked about this morning was ensuring that the stories of people who experience poverty are presented in a way that can have the appropriate impact. And we've seen this at City Council. When the roundtable was launched a few years ago, we all showed up, and a number of people with the current lived experience of poverty made presentations about what their lives were like. And the councillors were in shock when they heard, and saw a face and a woman who looks healthy and speaks clearly and well, and she stood up, Mary Lee stood up and spoke about her struggles with being on ODSP and not receiving the special diet. When she talked about the impact of losing the special diet, and one of the councillors had just been sick for a little bit, and he shared, that touched him, because he said, oh, well, I know how important nutrition is to my recovery, so of course it's important to these folks. We've got to do something about this. And so as soon as you engage people in hearing a real story of a person, then you can no longer say they and other and them. Yeah. You have to see it as, wow, this is somebody in my community, and that totally changes my perception.
How do you do that, though? Because right now, and even what we've done here today, these are stats.
Yeah, well, I'm the data geek and I'm the stats person, but I will say more than anyone how stats aren't going to change things that much, because people will have their own perceptions and their own stereotypes in their mind when they read the stats. They say, oh, well, those are lazy people or whatever, or it's their fault that they can't get a job, or whatever stereotypes they have. But when you create spaces and conversations between people, so putting in steps in all sorts of community meetings to make sure that people can speak from their own experience. So that means, female lone parents, it's difficult for them to come to a lot of community meetings because childcare is a big issue, sure, right? So at your community meetings, have some childcare available so that they're more welcome. Have print your materials in different languages. Have bus tickets available and food, serve food to create a welcoming space for everyone in the neighborhood, so that neighborhood association meetings, for instance, can have everyone, not just people who have more time and opportunity to participate. And that way you have that dialogue and people start realizing, okay, this is all us, and it's not just a stat, and it's an actual person, and there's real issues that everyone has to get involved in addressing.
Dialogue is so key to this whole thing. Yeah. But not just from the top down. I mean, within those layers, too. Get people in community to talking. We spend way too much time with our doors closed.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I was just thinking this weekend, or coming up, I'm heading to the Ontario Municipality Social Services Association, their provincial conference, and I've been asked to come and speak about how do we engage people with the current lived experience of poverty. So these are social service people out there who manage OW offices and that sort of thing across across the province, and they want to know. And I mean, their questions are really quite interesting. You know, how should we dress if we have people who come to our meetings that are poor? Should we be changing? What do we change? And they're very practical questions, and I kind of laugh about it at one level, but it's really thoughtful that people are wondering, like, what is the best way? How do I present myself as more inclusive when we bring people that are on a different class level, a different economic level, to be one of us? Because what do you do when you're sitting around a meeting with 3 or 4 people that you plan to have lunch with later that day, and there's a person sitting there that you know that could never come to that lunch and pay for themselves? How are you including them? What are you doing? So these are important conversations that people want to have about what do, you know, it's, yes, you can offer bus tickets, but how do we present ourselves, and how do we allow time for a conversation, a real conversation?
One of the other things in the minute or so that we have left, and it gets down again to the political will to do some of these things, is you can incrementally make huge changes, can't you? I mean, something as simple as, you just mentioned bus passes, offering free bus passes so people can get around and go to job opportunities. They don't have to worry about that. That's one less financial burden that they won't have to deal with. Little things like that. Yeah. Eliminating clawbacks on some of these government programs. I mean, the programs are in place to help people. They shouldn't be prohibitive. And they shouldn't be punitive, yet some of them are. And when they see where this one crosses over this one and it actually contradicts it, fix it. Yeah. Don't just say, yeah, we have to have a look at that. No, fix it. It's not that difficult, really.
Right. And the city has really stepped up in a couple of areas concretely in terms of bus passes for working poor. Yeah. You know, those sorts of things are really important indicators that people know that there's a solution that needs to take place, and they're wanting to be part of that solution. So we just have to keep that momentum moving along and really get people to think broader and think more creatively about what are we going to do to lift everybody up and make Hamilton the prosperous place it can be.
And daycare, and I wish we had more time to talk about that too. I don't think people even understand how important that is.
I didn't know how important it was till Sarah started talking about it with this report, so I think that's another whole conversation.
Great work this stuff is, guys. Thanks so much for this. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity, Bill.
We got to go home,
Thank
though.
Thank you.
You guys can go back to work.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks.
Sarah Mayo and Dave Pike from the Social Planning and Research Council. Yeah, we have the wind at your back this time.
That's right.
Thanks for being in here today.
All right.
We got a Scoot News coming up in a couple of minutes on Scott Thompson on the other side of 12 o'clock. Hey, Jason Bellamy, Jay McQueen, thanks, guys, for the great work putting this one together. And we're back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. The Bill Kelly Show on CHML and Cable 14.
7 years ago, Shania Twain had it all. Then she walked away.
I was feeling more pressure from my career the bigger it got. It just affected me. I was slowly...
So I'm not liking in this survey, first I'll pre-tag it. They did a thing on affordable homes and housing in Hamilton, report, S.P.R.C. did, and they took out the disabled. Said they were going to do a separate one for them. Well, personally, I've got issues with that. And now they're doing this one, and we're included in the disability in a small graph, but it's included in a bigger paradigm of people who have trouble with mobility or something like that there, and I find that an issue. And so Sarah did mention conference coming up, and I'm going to tag all that stuff also.